new study shows that Americans are more unhappy than they've been in 50 years. Now, obviously, coronavirus is playing to this with the quarantine, but there's been a downward spiral. And what's missing here? Joy. Happiness relies on external factors, while joy is something that we cultivate on the inside, and it's able to sustain us through difficult times. Welcome to Morning Tea.
Hi, I'm Joanne, business owner, yachty, mother, grandmother, pianist, composer, and musical artist with a message of the power of music for health and well-being.
When life is smooth sailing and winds are fair, happiness is easy to find. When we need that happiness buzz, we can buy something, we can make big exciting new plans, we can do something adventurous, and there's nothing wrong with the pursuit of happiness. But eventually the tide turns. The tide always turns, and happiness is elusive. Without joy as part of the fabric of who we are, we run the risk of running aground and becoming wrecked with anxiety and fears, discouragement and despairs, and we may resort to self-medicating, drinking too much, overeating, maybe worse things. So joy is not about the temporary happiness that comes and goes. It's a spiritual thing, and it works alongside the difficulties that we're facing, giving us the strength to not only survive, but even to thrive and grow through the dark seasons that come into our lives. Joy is also like choosing to plant a fruit-producing tree and daily tending that tree as it grows. And then when it produces its fruit, it is there for us to sustain and nurture us when we need it. So allow me to tell you a personal story. I was expecting a baby, and I was in the second trimester. And something went wrong. So I went to the doctor, and he said, I can't find a heartbeat. He said, I'm really, really sorry, but I think your baby's died. And those words stabbed me, and it was devastating. Went home and I called some of my girlfriends, and one of them said to me, that happened to me, and everything turned out fine. The doctor was wrong. So I thought, wow, that's great. I held on to those words. I took some hope in those words. And then I went through a roller coaster of being on the high of thinking everything's going to be fine, convincing myself of that outcome I wanted, and then the frightening low that what I kind of intuitively knew, that it was over. So horrible things happen to us all, but joy is what is able to sustain us and give us a sense of calm and even a sense of cheer in the pain that we're going through. So what did I do? Well, first of all, I acknowledged the grief, and then I counted my blessings, and I was thankful for what I had. Gratitude helps us to focus on what is here and now rather than what is lost, what we don't have, what is gone. With joy, you can't complain. Grief cannot crush you. Next, I reframed the event. One of my friends gave me a poem. It was written in the 1800s, and it was called Lambs Safely Folded. And it opened me up to the idea that this child had gained life through me and had quickly passed through earth and gone straight to heaven without having to suffer at all. Here's a couple of the lines. How blessed are those who early know a sweet release from all below. The Master in his wisdom sees an early heaven is best for these. What beautiful words, how comforting to reframe a painful event in those terms. So it was a difficult time, but my friends rallied around me, and they brought me their joy to help lift me up. They provided meals for my family, they cleaned the house, they took the kids on outings so that I could rest and recover. I felt so loved and cared for. It's the sort of thing you just don't see on the day-to-day basis when everything's going along nicely. And this was an opportunity for them to grow their joy by reaching out and helping a friend who was going through a dark time. So every day brings with it its regular ups and downs, and there are plenty of opportunities for us to be developing and cultivating our personal joy. Joy is the opposite of despair. Joy is like light in your soul, and it's the opposite of darkness. One thing you can do is smile. Seriously, smiling lifts your face and brightens your countenance. There's a scientific study that shows that when you activate these facial muscles, it tricks your brain into thinking that you're happy. And then your brain will release endorphins, which are like a natural opiate, and you'll feel better and you will be happy. I mean, just try it. So when we talk about cultivating joy, one thing you can do is just literally get out into the dirt, into your little garden plot, and see cultivation at work. Simple truths really become clear in the garden. It's why I love gardening so much. You know, you get your soil perfect. You get those little plants in there, and then you come out the next day and there's weeds. And those weeds are a great analogy to the garbage that comes up in our souls that we have to weed out. So you can look at those weeds and you can say, I'm going to hack you out today. And then you just get in there and you dig it out, and then you apply that to your own soul. If you're having a hard time experiencing joy in your life, then perhaps you're too self-absorbed and focused upon yourself. The answer to that is to get out and help somebody that's hurting. Get involved with a charity, particularly children. There's so many children that are hurting out there. And when you get down into those trenches, you'll gain instantly a greater appreciation for your own life and the great things that you have in your life. And of course, you'll bring light to a child that's suffering. And don't forget about the arts. There is joy through creativity, being able to express yourself, a place to constructively pour out your heart when you're going through difficult times, particularly music, which has a very unique ability to lift you up and carry you away from things and put you into a sort of a meditative state where you can think clearly and you're away from these things that are causing you so much distress. Joy brings with it this calm understanding that the tide is going to turn. The tide always turns, and soon you'll be floating, and again, in sailors' terms, smooth sailing, fair winds, sunny skies, and lots of happiness. So thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Go over to joannejolie.com and sign up to be on the official mail list, and I look forward to seeing you next time.